despite the toll taken by scandal on his national image.
If you're really awful, no one's asking.
Today, Governor Chris Christie put his New Jersey spin on a reboot of his presidential chances.
It's such an awful burden to be asked if you want to be leader of the free world. It's terrible.
At an investors conference hosted by CNBC, Christie enjoyed the 2016 speculation, both swatting it away.
Because, you were obnoxious enough to ask again, so I might as well give you something.
And giving it oxygen.
The fact is that you should beware of people, in my opinion, who are over anxious to make that decision before they need to. That would, it seems, indicate to me ambition before wisdom.
Just like Watergate before it, Bridgegate is now a permanent part of the American political lexicon, and it will forever hang like a noose around the neck of New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. This as he attempts to rid himself of the specter and try to get a possible presidential bid back on track. And plenty of those on the outside looking in believe he has a better chance of becoming part of the E Street Band than becoming president. Welcome into MidPoint, Chief Counsel and Policy Director of the Judicial Crisis Network, Carrie Severino. Carrie, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And founder of GOProud, who is also a conservative Christie supporter, Chris Barron. Chris, thank you so much for being here.
Happy to be on.
Carrie, I'm going to start with you first. Lady Chris Christie, according to a poll released on Wednesday. Hillary Clinton over Chris Christie? What's happened, Carrie?
Well, one of the things we've been focusing on is the fact that Christie has made a lot of promises that he hasn't followed through on, in particular promises about changing the judiciary. When he was running for office, he talked about how the New Jersey courts, and the Supreme Court in particular, most liberal in the nation, was undermining the state budgets and getting in the way of all of his attempted fiscal policies. So he pledged that he would appoint different kind of justices that would not legislate from the bench, but would interpret the law. But he absolutely failed. Every time he attempted to appoint a judge, he picked people who had no clear record of any kind of conservative judicial philosophy. Lately, he's even gone so far as to reappoint the Democratic Chief Justice of the court, even someone who's so liberal they were actually mentioned on the short list for Obama's Supreme Court. So he's completely abandoned that campaign promise. And you know what? That's the court that's now plaguing him and blocking his attempts to do anything for the state that he's tried to.
Hey, Chris, let me throw it to you then on this, because weren't we told that Chris Christie was wildly popular in the state of New Jersey? I mean, if you believe some of the things we've heard the last couple of years, there was no way his people would turn against him.
Well, I mean, first off, let's be honest. Most Republicans in swing states like New Jersey are running behind Hillary Clinton. That's just a reality. And quite frankly, New Jersey's not even really a swing state. New Jersey's been a traditionally blue state the last few cycles. Chris Christie's victories there, his overwhelming victories there, have been a testament to the type of politician and leader that he has been able to reach across the aisle and appeal to independents and even conservative Democrats. So, I mean, look, all of the horse racing this far out, it's fun to talk about, but the truth is, when it comes to the Republican Party, the Republican who's best positioned to take on somebody like Hillary Clinton in 2016 is Chris Christie.
Well, isn't it fair to say, though, that reaching across the aisle, which might have been one of his strengths at one time, is what still costs him to this day, because you will still hear every single crisis in New Jersey. That hurt him, it seems, more than helped him.
It might hurt him with a core constituency of Republicans, yes, but it certainly wouldn't hurt him in a general election against Hillary Clinton. In fact, that's the type of leadership that Americans are hungry for. Americans don't want any more of the hyper-partisan name-calling. What they want is they want leaders who are actually willing to work across the aisle and get things done. And look, Chris Christie didn't get elected the king of New Jersey. He got elected governor. He's forced to deal with the wildly Democratic-controlled Assembly and Senate there. And quite frankly, he has done a phenomenal job considering the odds that he's been up against.
Carrie, how about that phenomenal job?
Well, again, take the courts, for example. He has done a tremendous job of reaching across the aisle, as I said, even appointing the most liberal member of the Supreme Court back onto the Supreme Court, but a horrible job of actually understanding what it even means to embrace conservative values, at least in that area. Time and time again, he appointed people who, yes, have an R after their name to the court, but have no evidence of any kind of judicial philosophy. And you've seen time and time again that they voted consistently with all of their liberal colleagues on the court. So he doesn't seem to even get what it would mean to change those things. And I think the judiciary is an issue that's going to be hugely resonant as we go into other states looking at would he be a good executive for the country, because the next president is going to have probably 3 Supreme Court nominees. That's a huge thing. That is whatever your issue is that you think is important, if it's fiscal responsibility, if it's constitutional limits on government, if it's abortion, if it's marriage, if it's guns, all of those ultimately are decided by the courts. And he's someone who's shown that he really just doesn't even get what it means to have a judicial philosophy that is restrained and is committed to the rule of law rather than just picking his friends, picking his buddies. Again, he's great at reaching across the aisle. When we've reached out to him saying, let's talk about who might have a judicial philosophy that's conservative, we've gotten the back of the hand. He's called us cowards and said that we weren't here. So he reaches across the aisle, but he then bites back at when anyone from the conservative side
let me be fair. Let me be fair, because we're just a little short on time. I want to be fair here, though. You're talking about judicial side of things. He got a big win on Monday, the passage of the bill overhauling the state's bail system. That was a 60-0 bill passage here. He got legislation allowing low-level offenders who can't afford bail to avoid jail if a pretrial program works. That was a 53-7 with 9 abstentions. So you can focus on the judicial, but isn't it fair to say, though, that he has gotten other things done in the state?
No, that's great, and good for him for getting those things done, but there are a lot of things he's tried to do that court has blocked him on, whether it has to do with the same-sex marriage laws he was working on, whether it has to do with his housing development plan that they just blocked altogether. So there are a lot of ways that the court, even if you get laws passed, then can reinterpret them or can undermine them once it gets to the courts.
Okay, let's go from the courts. Chris, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Carrie is complaining about the fact that Governor Christie referred to her and her organization as cowards. She wrote an op-ed saying that he was bullying them. And the fact is that she's on air spending hundreds of thousands of dollars attacking and smearing the governor, and then she's unhappy that he fights back. Quite frankly, that's a little rich. Secondly, again, Governor Christie did not get elected the king of New Jersey. He got elected the governor of New Jersey, and he is forced to work with an overwhelmingly Democratic-controlled legislature, and he has done that. And when he has needed to stand up and fight, I don't think anybody out there believes that Chris Christie rolls over for anybody. And when he has needed to stand up and fight for things that are important for New Jersey, he has done so. And I think that you look at his record, particularly in a blue state like New Jersey, and you're looking at one of the most effective governors in this country.
All right, now I got a couple of minutes left here. I'm going to pose this to both of you here. Chris, I'm going to start with you. Does he then overcome Bridgegate? Does he overcome the handshake with Barack Obama to get back in the race? Or is it simply to this point that Bridgegate is going to hang there for some time and he can't get past it?
Look, I think it wasn't something that came out years from now, closer to 2016. I think he can overcome it. It's obviously going to take work. And look, his opponents are going to continue to take shots at him, particularly within the Republican Party, because they know that Chris Christie is exactly the type of leader who could unite the party. And they're afraid of what a Governor Christie candidacy would look like.
So, Carrie, every political figure comes with baggage. So can he overcome this?
I think the problem is we just see lots of things that are underlining the same kind of character traits. And the bill that worries me most, though, aside from all the scandals, again, is it doesn't matter if you don't understand what the president really needs to do. If you can reach across the aisle and accomplish certain things, that's great. But I think at the end of the day, one of the most important things that the next president is going to be doing is shaping the Supreme Court for the next generation, like David Souter, picked by Republicans, but without a real clear judicial philosophy, who ended up being the leading liberal judges on the Supreme Court.
Would you not agree, though, that most Americans never really look at that? Most Americans always look at whether or not their paycheck is better and whether or not that they can work and whether there are jobs. Wouldn't you agree that's usually the case?
All of those things ultimately end up getting decided at the Supreme Court too, because those things go back to things like, are we going to have Obamacare running the country, or are we going to have more freedom to do what we want with our individual health insurance and things like that? All of these things are ultimately going up to the Supreme Court. So I would argue whatever he's going to try to accomplish legislatively, he's going to have to get it through the courts.
Okay, 5 seconds in. Does he overcome all this and actually make the run, in your opinion?
I think he makes an effort for it. I'm not convinced he's someone who has enough conservative bona fides that he really is going to be able to unite the party. But
okay, Chris, 5 seconds. Yes or no?
Yes, I think he's going to make a run, and I think he can overcome Bridgegate.
All right, there we go. We're all out of time, but listen, Carrie and Chris, thank you so much for joining us. Wonderful discourse. We'll do it again. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
All right, later on this hour, terrorists exploiting the border crisis, separating fact from fiction. It's all coming up right here on MidPoint.